So I put this movie on the other night, and even though I hadn't seen it in almost 2 decades, I was quoting lines as soon as it began. That just goes to show the kind of impression a good film can leave on the young mind. And yeah, shut up, I know, I was being that annoying guy quoting lines while the movie was happening. Stand By Me came out in 1986 and was directed by Rob Reiner. It's based on the novella The Body by Stephen King, which is one of 4 stories in his Different Seasons collection. If you didn't know that, you might be pleasantly surprised to know that there is another small, not so well-known movie based on another one of those stories from the same collection. I hear it's pretty good. Maybe check it out. To get right to the point, if you haven't seen Stand By Me, you should. It's an extremely relatable story even today, and it's available on Netflix, so you've officially run out of excuses to not at least give it a shot. Now, I'm not going to go into like a super detailed description of the plot and what happens. The basic story is it's about a group of friends who hear a rumor about a dead body, and they decide that they're going to go on an adventure, find this body, and become heroes. Their motivation being that when they discover this body, they'll end up in the newspaper and on TV. And there happens to be a gang of older miscreants that want the same thing, so inevitably they are going to end up butting heads with our little group of heroes. Now, for some people, I assume the motivation of seeing a dead body will be lost on them, but I get it. When you're a 12-year-old boy, the idea of seeing a dead body just out in the world tickles a morbid curiosity. And that is just fueled when a group of friends, close friends, begin hyping each other up. With that kind of support behind what is probably not such a great idea, becomes an exhilarating thought that you will push through almost anything to see. I think it's a perfect storm of curiosity, lack of exposure, sense of adventure, and dreams of fame, at least in this specific instance, that comes together very naturally and believably. What makes this movie so good is that if you have ever had, at any point in your life, a group of friends that meant the world to you, if even for just a short period of time, you're going to get the camaraderie here. And that's what it's all about, you know, being friends, having each other's backs, giving each other a hard time, dreaming big, and opening up to each other. That's what friendship is, and this movie tackles those feelings in a great way. I guess you could call it a coming-of-age story because all 4 characters really do sort of change due to the experience they go through in the movie. Well, at least 3 of them. I'm not so sure Vern changed very much. But even calling it a coming-of-age story sort of does it a disservice in my opinion, because that feels like it's pigeonholing it into one category that it very clearly just bursts out of. It's not just a coming-of-age story, it's a story about friendship and adventure and defining moments from your childhood, which I think everybody can relate to on some level. And it's set in the 50s, which, let's be fair, were a little bit simpler, and there weren't so many distractions for kids. They had to go out of their way to find things to do. They weren't just tripping over mounds of social media and video games. At the beginning of the movie, 3 of the kids are just sitting around in their treehouse playing cards when the 4th one comes up and tells them about the rumor he heard about the body, and immediately all 3 friends are super interested. I imagine nowadays that would go more like this. Hey. Sup? You want to see a dead body? Where? Just outside of town. Yeah, I guess. Oh, wait, look at this new skin in Fortnite! Tell me I'm wrong. I mentioned at the beginning how this movie left quite the impression on me when I watched it when I was younger, and that isn't any more evident than when it comes to the scene with the leeches. If you have seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't, when you do, when that scene happens, imagine being a young boy. That's the sort of stuff that sticks with you. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not a movie that I would say is necessarily award-worthy. The biggest fault, I think, in the movie is its acting. It's just okay across the board. The adult actors are actually much worse than the kids in this case, but in my opinion that was actually okay because the focus is on the kids. It's just a simple movie that I think almost anybody can relate to. It has everything from laughs to thrills to quiet somber moments to some real lessons about what's important in life and what isn't. But it's not preachy about any of it. And the soundtrack is incredible. If you like tracks from the 50s, you will instantly love it. Sadly, by today's standards, and I use those air quotes extremely sarcastically, some of the language in the movie will be viewed by some as unacceptable, off-color, and even offensive. But those people just need to relax and get over it. The movie can't hurt you. If you are at all familiar with Will Wheaton, Kiefer Sutherland, Corey Feldman, Jerry O'Connell, or even River Phoenix, and you haven't seen this movie, put it on your watch list. And even if you don't know those actors or you have seen this movie, watch it for the first time regardless or watch it again. Like I said a couple times, this movie left quite the impression on me, so much so that I can still quote it almost line for line 20 years on. That's how good a film it is. So what about you guys? Who out there has seen Stand By Me, and do you agree with me that it stands the test of time, or do you completely disagree? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you all in the next one. So I put this movie on the other night, and even though I hadn't seen it in about 10 decades, 100 years, I'm old.